it's Kimberly here. I'm sorry. Thank you for coming to my channel today. Yesterday I was just so overwhelmed. I had a lot of things, and sometimes I just get very tired, and I just had to take the day off. But I am back with the video that I promised about using the insanity defense, people who actually used it and it worked for them. And just a note before we get into this, crop tops are coming back for guys. So bust out your crop tops, guys. If some of you don't know what those are, they were popular like in the late 70s and during the 80s. It was just a t-shirt that was just cut off in the middle. It showed your bare belly. And I think they originated because a lot of bodybuilders, they couldn't go shirtless in the gym, so they would cut the bottom of their top off because I guess it was hot, or I don't know, or they just for ego to show their abs, or I don't know why, but they're coming back in style. And my videos are showing up. All my videos are showing up again. Magically they reappeared. I don't think I got the views for them because my view count went down, or not down, but it just didn't go up, considering that I was constantly making videos and I was getting views on the new videos. It just seemed like I was lacking in the views, but anyway, that's back. And there was some weird thing that was happening also when right before that happened on my shorts that I did, and my shorter videos, even though I didn't hashtag them as a short. I do have a lot of short videos that I started out with at the very beginning years ago on my YouTube channel. They had been, I know YouTube was going to start monetizing some people's channels, whether you had 1,000 subscribers or not. And I think my shorts were monetized, or not the shorts, but the short videos, because they had a green icon next to them on all the beginning videos that I first made. And it was there for, I guess, a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, but then the little green icon disappeared, so I don't know what happened there. But anyway, we'll just get into this video. I mentioned the oldest legal case the other day for using the insanity defense was in Britain in, I think it was 1843, where an Englishman shot the Prime Minister's press, or secretary, I guess, just secretary. And I don't think they had press secretaries in, but that was the first original oldest test case. But in America, the test case really was in 1859 with Daniel Sickles, who shot the son of Francis Scott Key, who is the guy who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. And he was married to a little bit younger, I wouldn't say much younger, but a lady that was in her 20s, early 20s, and he was in his 30s, I believe. And he became jealous, and he alleged that she was having an affair with Francis Scott Key's son, and so he shot him. And amazingly, this is unbelievable, but I think it was because of the times. He was a politician, and he was also a general for the Union forces, and he got off on the charges, and he remained in Congress after that. He was actually allowed to keep his job in Congress because he did use the insanity defense, and he got away scot-free. So that's where that little euphemism comes from. And then in 1981, Steven Steinberg, he also used the insanity defense in Scottsdale, Arizona. He stabbed his wife, Elena, 26 times. And he claimed that he was innocent because he was sleepwalking. He admitted to the crime, but I mean, that's a hard thing to do, repeatedly do that action 26 times. But he said that he was sleepwalking and not in his right mind, and therefore, since he was not in his right mind, the insanity defense actually worked for him, and he walked out a free man. He just served no jail time whatsoever, and that kind of prompted the laws to change in Arizona regarding the use of the insanity defense. Made it a little bit stricter, a little bit harder to get away with it. And then, of course, the most famous case was probably John Hinkley Jr., which I talked a little bit about the other day also. He shot Reagan, and he also shot a press secretary named James Brady. He injured a police officer and a Secret Service agent, and he did this to impress Jodie Foster. And I don't think she's ever spoken about it. I think maybe just briefly in an interview, but for decades she just would not talk about it at all. And I think it was just something that she just acknowledged, but she didn't really go into detail about it. And he was James Brady, he was the gun control advocate that changed the gun laws. He was partially paralyzed when he got shot. He got shot in the head. And he is who the Brady bill is named after, which is the bill that says that you have to wait 5 days before getting a gun, because John Hinkley Jr. just walked into a pawn shop and he gave fake address, fake information, whatever, and he had already had previous mental health issues, and he was able to just get the gun immediately and just walk, do whatever he did. And now I think they have the instant background check, so that kind of overrides the Brady bill, because they can instantly check your background now. And I do think that there are, in some states, or I'm not sure what the real issue is with there may be a waiting period. I think it is kind of up to the states, but if there's federally, I think the 5-day waiting period is still around. I'm not sure. I didn't really check that out. But number 4 would be, or that would be number 5. He died due to complications because of this gunshot, and his death was ruled a homicide, even though he died, years later. But John Hinkley Jr. was put into an institution, and he was allowed to, after decades, he was allowed to go out on day passes unsupervised to visit his parents. So I think that was kind of not very safe. I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about that, though. And Mary Winkler, she shot her husband Matthew in 2006 with a shotgun, and he was a minister for the Church of Christ. But she claimed that he was physically and mentally abusive to her, and she was convicted of voluntary manslaughter. Even though she was convicted, I included her because she was sentenced to 210 days, but she was freed after 67 days. So, in essence, it did work for her, and she served that time at a mental health hospital. So, she didn't really go to jail. It was because of the abuse that she was able to actually, that it did work in her favor. And then there's this one case that is very, I think, pretty well known. Most people probably know about it. It was in 1993. It was a while back, and it was Lorena Bobbit. And she was married to a guy named John Wayne Bobbit, and she claimed that she was abused and physically and sexually, emotionally abused by this guy. And she just one night, he came home drunk and had raped her, she claimed, and she cut off his male member. She went into the kitchen, got a knife, and cut it off. She left the house. She was driving around. She threw his member into a field, and then she finally called 911 herself and said what she did, and they found his member in the field, they were able to pack it in ice, make an emergency run to the hospital, reattach it in a 9-hour operation. And it did work because he had a very short stint in porn. And this lady, she spent only 45 days in a mental health facility and just being evaluated, and then she was released. So the insanity defense actually does work. It's very rare that it works, and very few people use it, but there's quite a few cases that, that it has worked. And even though some of these people may have been convicted of a crime, the fact that they didn't serve much time or got a slap on the wrist, I mean, that kind of goes with that they actually got away with whatever they were doing. And so it can work, and not very often, but usually it's associated with a very heinous or a pretty horrific crime, I guess you could say. Okay, thank you all, and I'll be back with another video soon. Thank you for coming to my channel. Thank you so much.